Looks like we are, sir. Yeah.
We'll call the meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. If you'd all rise, and I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. Russi.
Yes, Councilmember Lau.
Present.
Councilmember Crosby.
Here.
Councilmember Carter.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Present.
Mayor Hepburn.
Present.
Very good.
We will go to announcements of upcoming and community events. Any announcements or anything, Mr. Russi?
I have nothing, and I don't know that we've received anything.
Okay, JR, have we received anything for any announcements?
No requests have been received, sir.
Then we'll move on to the consent calendar. Do we have anything to be pulled from the consent calendar?
Yes, I do. I'd like to pull 5C.
Okay. Any other item wants to be pulled? Mr. Rusty, do we have anything from the public that wants to be pulled?
No
No.
requests.
So we'll go ahead and we need a motion for the remainder of the consent calendar.
I'll make that motion.
Motion a second.
Second.
Second, we have a roll call.
Councilmember Lau.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry. Aye.
Councilmember Crosby, thank you.
Yes.
Councilmember Carter.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Hepburn.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll move back to item C, ordinance second reading. Staff recommends approval of the following. Mr. Russi, did you want to speak on that, Robin?
Yes, I pulled that item because I wanted to be consistent with my vote from the last meeting. And I just feel that what I said last meeting stands, and I still support that, my vote, that not supporting the 42 homes.
Okay, very good. Do we have any other discussion on this, or may I ask for a motion?
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 1099.
Okay, second.
Yep.
Councilmember Lau, second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lau.
Aye.
Councilmember Crosby.
Yes.
Councilmember Carter.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Hepburn.
Yes.
Okay.
We will move to public hearings. Item A. Did we have a report on that, Mr. Russi, or did you want to read on that?
We do actually, interim finance director, if he's around. I know he was going to be taking this from home. JR, is he available? Is Mark available?
Yeah, I'm making him a panelist right now, so he should be popping up.
He will be giving you a very brief presentation on this. So, Mark, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
And we can see you. Excellent.
Okay, just trying to get locked and loaded here.
Good evening, Mr. Alvarado. How are you this evening?
I am wonderful. Thank you for asking. Good evening, everyone, Mayor and members of the City Council. Very briefly, this public hearing is to consider the annual increase for the paramedic fee. You may recall under Measure GG that was passed a number of years ago to increase the annual fee. There must be a public hearing in conjunction with the analysis of the CPI that is done for the year ended March of the prior October, I'm sorry, of the prior 12 months. And that's the most that the fee can be increased. During the 12-month period ended October, the CPI increase is 0.7%, so a little bit less than 1%. That equates to a 4 cents increase for the new fiscal year. So this is for the July 1st, 21 through June 22 fiscal year. The paramedic fee will go from $5.54 to $5.58, approximately about $6,000 of additional revenue. This fee, along with the transport revenues, bring in about $1.6 million. Our paramedic fees are above that, over $1.7 million. So we're still not recovering the full cost of the operations, but we are continuing to increase the fee based on CPI requirements in the GG measure GG. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions from the council.
Council, do we have any questions for Mr. Alvarado before we go to public comment? Nope. We'll go ahead and go to public comment. JR, do we have anybody on for public comment for this item?
Nobody has emailed to be called, and we do have some people participating as attendees. If they are interested in speaking, they would just need to use the raise hand feature that should be toward the bottom of their screen.
I will wait for you to let me know because I can't see that.
And nobody's
Mr.
raising-
Mayor, you can click on actually participants and attendees and see if they raise their hand too. You can actually see who's watching. If you go under participants.
I see it. I don't. Thank you, Mr. Crosby. I'm learning something every day.
And nobody has raised their hand, sir.
Okay, then we will go ahead and close the public comment and come back to council. Any council any questions for Mr. Alvarado?
I do, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Crosby.
Mr. Alvarado, I think you just stated it, but I just want to make sure and clear again. Because of COVID and because of our down some firemen, we have not been doing our own paramedic transportation. So what is the difference of cost that's been happening and during this past year when we've been down?
Oh, well, so we actually did bring back, for a while both the ambulances were out of service. We did bring back one ambulance toward the end of last year, kind of around, I want to say November. So right now we have one ambulance in the city. If there is a need for a second ambulance, that's when the third party care comes in and helps us. It definitely did cost us money because we were losing the revenue for the ambulance transport. And in addition to that, sometimes when there were calls where there wasn't transport, but care still needed to come out, we're having to pay for that service too. So it definitely cost us. I think for this year, our revenues are projected to be down over 400,000. As a matter of fact, that was one of the mid-year budget adjustments where we reduced the revenues, I believe 440,000, increased the expenses about 75,000 because of the extra costs. We are hoping to be full bore for the new fiscal year where we'll have both ambulances up and running and we won't have to depend on care for any additional support for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions from, yes, Mr. Davis?
Thank you. So just for clarification, in the memo advising us to approve this, the memo was written based on having a full fleet of ambulances, correct? Having both in service. And even then, the cost for those two ambulances is going to exceed the projected revenue after increase, but at least we're going to be close.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And so we're not going to have a windfall of revenue. It's just going to help offset most, if not, or most of the costs.
Correct.
Right.
And the other thing to point out is even during the time when we didn't have our own transport and we were contracting that out, if there were any cost, co-pays or such that were the responsibility of the resident, those were being given to the city and the city was paying those directly. So there shouldn't have been a cost to any of our patients that need, any of our residents that were transported.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was close to $100,000 shortfall on that. Is that correct, Mr. Alvarado? Like 90 some odd thousand on the shortfall.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
What do we?
all that means is the general fund subsidizes that additional part of the operation.
What did we pay for? Do you have that? I know I saw the audited demands and I can't recall. Do you know what we paid Care Ambulance for this year so far?
I don't offhand, Mark, I don't know if you know.
No, I don't. At the top of my head, I don't.
Yeah, I remember the audited demands. quite gets
It was
considered.
more earlier on than because we kind of changed the relationship as we moved through more of the activity. So I'm not quite sure what it was.
Yeah, I saw it. It's not important. Any other questions for Mr. Alvarado or staff? Then we will move to I need a motion for this.
I'll make a motion that we approve the increase in paramedic service fee from 554 to 558 by adopting resolution 2122.
Thank you, Councilmember
And
Davis.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Carter, we have a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lau,
Aye.
Councilmember Crosby,
Yes.
Councilmember Carter,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis,
Aye.
and Mayor Hepburn.
Yes,
Thank you.
we will move to proposed short-term rental ordinance, Mr. Russi.
Yeah, I know that Gabriel Rivera will be giving the presentation on this as he has done most of the work involved in it. So, and I appreciate all that. But just to remind council, this goes back almost a year and a half now, this topic and this issue. We established a moratorium to give us some time to evaluate what would be a balanced ordinance change to put in place. We had as best of a public input process as we could during COVID. We had a study session with council, actually 2 study sessions with council to review what some of the findings from that input from operators as well as the public were. And essentially what we have before you tonight is the recommended ordinance for your consideration. Gabriel will go through in a lot more detail and regarding what is in there from the input that you've all provided. So with that, Gabriel.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, council members and mayor. So I'm going to briefly start off with just a brief background like Mr. Rusty had just stated. So back in December of 2019, the city council held a hearing to consider imposing a moratorium on short-term rentals based on various concerns raised by residents. The council then provided staff with direction to prepare a moratorium for approval at the council meeting that was held in January 21st of 2020. It was then adopted under ordinance 1092, which would enact a moratorium on all short-term rentals in Verne. And the council did allow for an exception to the moratorium, which would allow for any operator of a short-term rental who was present at the property and who could secure adjacent property owner signatures, supporting the use of the property as a short-term rental. The moratorium was set to originally expire March 6th of 2020, but after numerous extensions and because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the extension was moved all the way back to August 17th of 2021. Moving this back all the way back to August 17th allowed staff time to draft a short-term rental ordinance and hold a study session with the council, along with having a reading with the Planning Commission as well. So moving forward, on November 16th, as we all remember, we held a study session with the City Council to discuss the draft short-term rental ordinance. The City Council back then had provided staff with some direction to some proposed modifications, and staff then incorporated these modifications to the draft ordinance at this December 20th City Council update hearing. So moving forward, staff then received direction from the City Council to move forward with the proposed modifications and to present the short-term rental ordinance to the Planning Commission on March 10th of 2021. The Planning Commission then held a hearing to review the draft ordinance and approved Resolution 1271, which recommends that the City Council approve draft ordinance 1098. The Planning Commission also proposed a modification to section 18.94.1.050, which is the permit expiration and renewal section, which would allow for the city to choose not to renew a short-term rental permit if the permit was found to have multiple violations in the previous year. So the proposed ordinance includes a number of regulations, such as establishing a permitting process and the implementation of a transient occupancy tax. The ordinance also defines what constitutes as a short-term rental and describes the process of appealing denials and renewing short-term rental permits. So in order to apply for the short-term rental permit, applications must contain the following. Applicants shall provide their personal information along with a floor plan of the residence. They should provide documentation that the short-term rental is the host's primary residence along with any authorization for a authorized representative to stay on site during all of the rentals. Also, only one party may book per property per day, and a maximum of 2 people per bedroom, up to a maximum of 10 people per short-term rental. That little occupancy there does not include children under 18 as well. So once a short-term rental permit has been received, the surrounding property owners will be notified of the application. If 3 or more of those property owners who are notified respond with concerns or objections, then the short-term rental may be denied. If the short-term rental host is unable to meet any of the requirements for the short-term rental permit, or if an application was denied because of surrounding neighborhood opposition, a host may apply for a conditional use permit as outlined in the Laverne Municipal Code sections, which would require a public hearing before the Planning Commission. If ultimately approved, a host may be able to operate their short-term rental without some of the restrictions listed above. So staff and the Planning Commission recommend that City Council approve, waive further reading, and place on first reading ordinance number 1098, approving regulations for short-term rentals. And if you guys have any questions regarding the ordinance itself, I'd be more than happy to answer it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Really appreciate that. Do we have any questions for Mr. Rivera, Council?
No.
Mayor and council, if I could just jump in for a second here. I just was looking at the agenda and noticed that the draft of the ordinance that is included in the agenda is a previous draft. There are some minor changes with date corrections, effective date, nothing substantive, but I wanted to make you aware of that. And if this matter is introduced as an ordinance this evening on second reading, of course, the correct copy will be included in your agenda.
Okay, so this is not the correct one is what we're saying. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are a couple of changes that, I would tell you are not significant to the decision-making. But, a few tweaks here and there. And this says passed, approved, and adopted this date to be arranged. Well, that's changed, of course. And so.
But we're going to have a second reading on this anyway. Isn't that correct, Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mr. Crosby?
If there's any changes, I would propose what would be the ramifications of actually just bringing this back to the next meeting with all the corrections, so everything is right in front of us making our first vote.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You may want to open and conduct the public hearing and then conclude that, and then we can bring back the action item.
Is this time sensitive, Mr. Russi?
We still have time up against the moratorium that's in place. That would be the only
August,
risk
right?
we'd be up against.
August, is that correct? The moratorium is over in August. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, so I would agree with Mr. Crosby. We'll go at any other questions when we go to public, open public comment.
No, I agree with Rick. I feel that I want to see it in front of me. So yes,
We
I
should have
support that.
proper reading before we approve anything. I do agree.
Well, and I would think that if it was included in the agenda packet, we'd want to make sure that people had, even if they were minor changes, I think the correct one needs to be put out there so everybody knows what we're talking about. So
I concur. Okay, let's go ahead and go to public comment. Do we have anybody for public comment, JR?
Mr. Mayor, we have Eric Kames on the line.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Kames.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I'll be brief. Yeah, my name is Eric. I live on Stone Circle with my wife and daughters, ages 7 and 4. My wife and I moved to Laverne years ago when we decided to cultivate a family and kind of, acquire a quieter, more secure environment for our family. We used to live on Myrtle and Foothill in Monrovia, which was very loud, very up the street from bars. So we moved here for the peace and quiet. We live on a small cul-de-sac where I've been blessed to raise my girls, teach them to ride bikes. We live around the corner from my daughter's school teacher, like in a neighborhood with the church. Very recently, my next door neighbor, I share a wall with, let me know that he's turning his home into an Airbnb to, as he put it, pay for his summer vacations. Since he's informed me of that, we've had 2 different house guests next door, and it's very obvious and very clear to us. One family's from Montana. They looked over our fence multiple times, pulled into our driveway multiple times. I could track this and tell this because as of right now, they still have their home listed on Airbnb as available throughout May and June. And as I understand, they are operating without a permit. The next round of guests were 2 young people who didn't have a car but were Ubered in. I don't want to speak ill of others, but they did not fit in the neighborhood. They smoked weed 24/7, listened to music 24/7. We did call Laverne PD a couple times on them. Their parting gift was a used bloody tampon in my front yard. Very clearly, this is a disturbance to the neighborhood. A month or 2 prior to that, a older gentleman was in the front yard of this house. I didn't know at the time that he was a short-term guest, but he was staring at my young daughter in her bathing suit on a scooter. And if any of you gentlemen or anyone on the council has young girls who know that feel that sends shivers up your spine, and it now in retrospect, knowing, oh, this is just a stranger, not someone that my neighbors knew, there is no prevention for guests just kind of popping in for days. There's no investment from people. For all I know, and no one can prove otherwise, that man is a registered sex offender. The quality that has been brought to our neighborhood and just the insecurity placed by what's going on next door is extremely concerning. And if I wanted this, I'd still be living in Monrovia on Myrtle and Foothill. So I just thank you for your time. I wanted to share what this is like. Bloody tampon. I understand how gross that is to even hear out of my mouth. Imagine finding that where my daughters play. That's what my experience living next door to, as I understand it, an illegally run short-term rental house. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We'll have staff look into that. So immediately. Mr. Russi, you've got all that information from the gentleman, don't you? Okay. Do anybody else, JR?
No other requests for us calling them, and I don't see any hands raised, sir.
Okay, we'll wait another 15
And I know we received an email earlier, someone on that same street.
I don't think I was rushing, so I didn't see that. I will look at that. That's very concerning. Very concerning.
I've actually asked I saw the email, I asked the police chief to do some research on that when I get some information. He wasn't able to pull it because we got the email kind of late today before this meeting, but we'll certainly follow up.
If you could report back to all of us, that would be great to let us know what's going on.
I'll probably include something in your briefing later this week.
Okay, great. Please, want to get that taken care of. JR, anything else?
No, sir.
We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council. So we're going to hold this issue. We're not going to do a vote on this. We're going to hold this issue and bring it back to another first reading with the corrected information. Is that correct?
Do we have to make a motion for that?
Do we need a motion for that, Mr. Russi?
No, you've closed the public hearing and we'll just bring it back at your next meeting as an action item.
So we'll do that. We'll do a first and a second reading after, and then we'll go through the process. Okay. So Being that said, we will move to other matters. Item 7, Mr. Russi.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Actually, since JR was kind enough to put this report together, I'll let him handle it, but I will let the council know that as I shared with you several weeks ago, unfortunately, Chief Segura has conveyed to me that he will be resigning effective as soon as possible. And so I've been working on finding a replacement. And so JR worked through the PERS permittable activities and has a contract or an agreement for a new interim to go through with you. JR?
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. With Interim Fire Chief David Segura's notification that he will be leaving his position effective as soon as possible, the city manager has conducted a search of qualified replacements and has identified Lawrence Waterhouse as the next interim fire chief, while the city will be concluding its current recruitment that's already well underway for a permanent replacement. In order to be compliant with state law, it is necessary for the city council to take an action in an open session affirming the execution of such employment arrangements. The attached resolution and agreements satisfies the requirements with both CalPERS and state law. Unfortunately, the need for another interim is a result of the unexpected resignation of Chief Segura. However, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we are well underway in our process, and we'll finalize that with a selection and background that should be done in the next couple months, if not sooner. Also, I'd personally like to thank Chief Segura. He's been great to work with and has helped a lot. So I'm very thankful that he was with us for the time that we had him. With that, staff recommends the City Council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Lawrence Waterhouse to provide temporary part-time employment.
Thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Well, we had at least one person that wanted to speak on
Oh,
it
okay.
as well.
That's, did we have any questions for staff first, for JR?
No.
I just want to personally thank Mr. Segura. He was always available, did a great job, helped out tremendously, and I know that he's got issues to take care of on his side, and we wish him the best, and thank you very much for his service when he was here. And also, if this approves tonight, we look forward to our Mr. Waterhouse. He comes with a tremendous amount of experience. So do we have any questions for JR before we go to public comment? No?
And I don't, again, for those that are attendees, if you would like to speak, raise your hand. I know that one person has emailed in that doesn't have his hand raised, but I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. And if he doesn't want to speak, then he can always decline.
Okay, we'll open public hearing right now. Thank you, JR.
Mayor, this is John Wilson. He had emailed wanting to speak, but he was also in as an attendee. So
Good evening, Mr. Wilson.
Good evening. I was going to speak during public comments, but I guess I can speak now. Seeing this item on the agenda, Mr. Mayor and council members, thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak. Seeing this information on the agenda today really distressed me, and I don't know the circumstances of the sudden resignation of our interim chief. But here we go again. We're getting ready to get another interim chief. I'm just hearing now that we might be close to getting a regular chief, but every time I hear this, I get more distressed because I know that there's some movement to try and have LA County come in and take over our fire services. And that distresses me even more. We've had our fire service here for, 100 years, and they were very special to those of us in the community of Laverne. You know, the thing on Christmas with Santa, but just being able to drive around and see these gentlemen and talk to them, they're part of our family. And I'm really distressed the fact that if we can't find a chief, what is going to happen to our fire service? Are we going to end up having an issue and end up losing it to the county of LA, which I do not want to see? This is all of a sudden. I went back. I was trying to find out if there had been any other thing in any of the minutes or agenda. I couldn't find it. So this is sudden, and it just bothers me. During the campaign, there was a lot talked about the fire department and trying to mend the fences, if you will, and get us up and running. And we do have a fire department. We have a police department that we can all be proud of. We're a small city, and look what we have accomplished with our fire department and our police department. I'd hate to lose that. We need to stop this merry-go-round of interim fire chiefs. So I'm hoping this is the last one, and I don't want to hear, and I know there's people out there, I don't want to hear that we're going to get another interim fire chief another 3 or 4 months down the road because we haven't been able to select somebody. So I really implore you as a city council to up the ante and get somebody hired. Thank you for your time and thank you for the job that you do.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Russi, did you want to comment on that? Or no, as far as the,
Would you like me to comment on? I'm not sure. You made a statement, but
no, just the fact that we've had a number of interims, but they're time sensitive with the CalPERS situation, but we are looking for a permanent chief replacement. Is that not correct?
yeah, I was hopeful that Chief Segura would have been able to extend through. I mean, it wasn't a time sensitive issue. There were organizational issues as well as his own personal issues that caused him to depart sooner than what I had hoped. I really was hoping that we could have kept him. I anticipate that, you know, we have interviews this month for a permanent chief and hope to be at a point where we can have an announcement after background by July. That's really the goal we're targeting and accelerating that process, but it wasn't meant to be. And unfortunately I had to bring in somebody separately. So
I don't know who their hand up first, but
Go to Rick. That's okay.
Councilmember Crosby.
Well, I just want to say I agree with Mr. Wilson wholeheartedly that I know the city and the residents are really tired of having interims in a piece, and I believe that this did not need to happen, and want to make sure that we try to not only keep our fire, but we also try to keep our people, and that's with the chiefs, interim chiefs as well. That we need to make sure and stay in our own lanes as council members, that we're not interrupting and getting involved in that organizational piece too. So I just believe that Chief Segura, after speaking to him too, wish he would have stayed, and we need to make sure and keep our people.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. Councilmember Carter.
Yes, I'd like to address this to Mr. Wilson's concern is because the talk was about going county, we could not go out to look for a fire chief because who would come knowing that our city might go county and he would lose his job. So there was reasons why we didn't go out for a chief at that time. But once our council took a vote a couple months back to look at the study, and if they decide, or we decide as a council to go county, then it will go out to the vote of the citizens to decide for a public safety, police and fire, whether or not we want those services. So Mr. Wilson, to your comments, please pay attention to what goes on in the near future here, and then your vote will matter quite a bit. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Davis. Councilmember Davis.
Have we closed public comment?
No, I was just going to say, could we please check with GR to see if we have any more public comments?
You're muted.
I was just refreshing my email. I didn't see anybody else come through, and I don't see any other hands raised.
No one at all? You've checked all the emails, GR?
No other requests.
No other requests, no call-ins, anything. We'll go ahead and close public comment and we'll move back to council. Councilmember Davis, you had a comment.
really just had the comment on the process, but my comment on another interim, I think it's important that we maintain the department with a chief. And we, originally when this all began, we had an interim who was the police chief as well, and as acting, and that didn't suffice. So I'm glad that we found another interim to take the position while we organize and get a permanent chief in here. I think it is incumbent on council, though, to attempt to speak with a singular voice and be unified in how we're relating to and addressing the situation with our fire department, because I think the lack of a unified voice has caused chaos and concern of our residents.
Councilmember Lau.
My comments would just be, I am thankful for Chief Segura coming in to take over this job. I think I've enumerated to residents and to, this council that this is not an easy job to walk into, particularly in light of the situation that we're in. And I think it is incumbent upon all of us to work together towards a resolution and not to, to be swayed by the shiny things, I guess is the best way I can put that right now. So, thank you to Chief Segura for his help and his assistance thus far. And, best of luck to the new chief coming in and to, to all of us to get this through. So, I look forward to us trying to work together to make that happen.
Thank you, Councilmember Lau. This has been a rough road for many years now, and we have had multiple interims, but we've also had issues with the fire department, with management, things like that. And hopefully we need to put that behind us, but we'll have our budget meeting coming up on May 17th. Hopefully we can have been working on a proposal that we can hopefully rebuild. We have to find the money for that, obviously. We have to find a resource, funding source for rebuilding and starting to staff up our fire department, which we need to bring the whole fire department back up again. Hopefully Mr. Lawrence will help us with that, but we need to find a permanent fire chief that will be able to do that and bring our fire department back up to its glory. It's Class A fire department. We need to make it even better, and let our employees, to our fire department personnel, know that we do care about their safety. We do care about their situation, what equipment they have, because ultimately it protects us as citizens of Verne. So as we move forward, you'll be seeing some things, as Councilmember Carter had mentioned. You'll be seeing some things that hopefully we can move forward and start a rebuilding process. On that, do we have a motion for item 7?
Yeah, I had mentioned I moved to approve Resolution 21-23, Agreement for Temporary Employment.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll definitely second that one.
Roll call, sir, please, Mr. Rusty.
Yes, Councilmember Lau,
Yes.
Councilmember Crosby,
Yes.
Councilmember Carter,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Hepburn.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Public, we will move to item 8, public comments or communications. JR, do we have public comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do have some phone in. And of course, if anybody joining as an attendee wants to speak, please just raise their hand so we can see that. Mr. Mayor, the first person I have on the phone is Gary Hunter.
Good evening, Mr. Hunter.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, Tim Hepburn, you have become quite the politician. You tried to do away with our fire department and go city, but it did not work out so well for you. The citizens of Laverne wanted our own fire department. Now you're trying to save face by going on the internet and Channel 4 News to reinstate the fire department. Also, you did not let city council know what you were going to do by going on the internet and Channel 4. You made it sound like it was your decision. It is not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Share.
Yeah, we'll just have a little bit of a delay in between as we get them online. Please hold.
Okay, we have no idea.
No, we don't have any idea.
They're streaming.
Mr. Mayor, I have Kathy Newland on the line.
Ms. Newland, good evening.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. I'm speaking for my neighbor Joe Wetton and myself tonight. We have no idea where the meeting is at right now because the screen is freezing and the sound is spotty. So I'm just going to go ahead and read my comment.
We can hear you well. We can hear you well.
Joe and myself, we're in full support of our city council voting to make the funds available to rebuild our Laverne Fire Department to safety standards that the residents and the firefighters deserve. Since this is a safety issue, we should all be able to expect this council to agree on this. After 3+ years of turmoil brought on by a city manager, 2 particular current city council members, and the actions of a previous fire chief, we faced and lost a lawsuit. This should never have gone this far. It could have been resolved with good administrative leadership. At this point, our city needs to start putting bad decisions into the past and correct the relationship with our fire department employees. They have continued to perform excellent and professional care to the residents during this entire time. It's time for the city administration and city council to show their appreciation and professionalism by making our LVFD whole and safe again. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ms. Newland.
Mr. Mayor, I have Jackson Salinas on the line.
Good evening, Mr. Salinas.
Good evening. I just have questions on behalf of residents. Do you have any update on the 4th of July parade this year? And since we're going to the Yellow Tour tomorrow in LA County, is there any way we could go back to in-person meetings at the next council meeting? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Salinas.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm refreshing my email, but that is all the people that had requested prior to the meeting.
We will go ahead and close public comments. We'll move to council comments and conference meeting reports. Who would like to start? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Russi.
Would you like me to answer at least those couple of questions?
Oh,
that were
I'm
raised?
sorry. Yes, please. I'm sorry.
Do not have much information at this point regarding 4th of July. As you know, it lies with the 4th of July committee. I know that they are waiting until the last possible opportunity to make a decision regarding the parade, as well as any type of firework display. We are, and hopefully that the latter part of May, they will have an answer on what they will be able to do based on what, if any, restrictions are still in place. We're hoping we get some direction from the county in that time that will make their decision a little more evident of what they can do. So once we are able to report something out, we will be sure to let the community know. As to the changing of the tier, based on the yellow tier, there are still restrictions in place that will not permit us to be in public, to allow it to be open to the extent that we could comfortably allow the public to come into the building. I know that there's that target of June 15th that's out there that the state will hopefully get to green. we will await what direction is coming from the county. I actually have a meeting this week with the health department, and I fully expect to ask some questions on what indication or where they see the restrictions going at that point to hopefully allow us to open up. So once we get, again, more information on that, I will be sure to share it with the council as well as the public.
Thank you, Mr. Russi. Being that, let's move to council comments, conference meeting reports. Who would like to start? Councilmember Davis.
I'm happy to start. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take this opportunity to thank our outgoing interim fire chief, David Segura. Thank you so much for all that you've done for us. You came into an environment which was choppy at best, and you leave it in a choppy situation, not due to any lack of effort that you provided. So thank you very much for everything you've done and help us get this far along. So thank you so much.
Who would like to go next? Councilmember Crosby.
I think Mr. Salinas took a little of my thunder, moving into the yellow. I'm real excited about that. That means opening up more spaces. Our gyms opening up to 50% capacity. I heard in the last meeting, I forget the date, but our movie theater might be opening up pretty soon as well. This is all good things. And as my report came to me this evening from my work, there was no deaths in the last day of reporting as well. So, it's really good things are happening. Vaccinations are coming through. We did. I got to be part of our last vaccine event for my district this last Saturday, and where people are getting them, and really appreciative of that. And so that's, I think, why we're moving the way we are. So I think we need to keep going forward and keep working together, and we can open up. I'm really looking forward to that June 15th date to be back, and excited for getting back to some normalcy in our lives, and where I could sit in a room with the five of you and have these debates together. I'm just like our residents. I'm looking forward to come back. I want to make sure that we do it at the right time in the right place, but I want to see everybody going forward as well. So good news, and let's just keep moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. Councilmember Carter.
Rick, you're right, because we haven't been able to sit, me and Mir haven't been able to sit with you and Wendy since you got elected. So to have all five of us together will be nice. So we all look forward to that, but we want it done safely. So I believe in waiting till the county gives us the, red light or green light to do that. We have the red light. Anyhow, no, I've had all my meetings. They've been pretty calm, and Gold Line's moving along. Tri-City Mental Health is working with our police department, and just raves about our police department. And I thank them for what they do. But where my comments are tonight, I wanted to focus on the employees. As I walk through City Hall, as I drive around, I hope the public really appreciates that our city services did not stop through the last 14 months. And they might have slowed down as far as City Hall being closed a little bit, but that was precautions. But our streets were taken care of, projects were being worked on, and staff was dedicated to each and every one of us as residents. The police force just kept doing their job. Fire department did their job. Everyone, we're blessed to live in this community. So I think my comments tonight is a big, huge thank you to all of our employees throughout the city. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Carter. Councilmember Lau.
Yes, I just wanted to give a couple of really brief reports and a update on an upcoming event. But Muir and I had the opportunity to sit as panelists on a recent diversity and inclusivity discussion that was held by the Bonita Democrats. It was attended by Laverne residents, Claremont residents, San Dimas residents. And I think what we should all be really proud of is that these cities are looking to us as an example of how to put together cultural awareness and how to raise that with folks and how to have, meaningful dialogue about that. So I really think that says a lot about what our community is and what it can be in terms of how we can be good examples for others. And so really excited to have been able to participate in that. The University of La Verne is hosting a community gathering of solidarity in light of the Asian American and Pacific Islander hate crimes that have taken place over the last couple of, well, more predominantly in the last couple of weeks and months. But it is tomorrow at 4 o'clock between 4 and 5 p.m. The interfaith group at the school is putting it on. So if you are on Instagram, feel free to look them up, but you can get the Zoom link and everything else if you'd like to participate. I will be one of the people on the panel as well. So, definitely encourage folks to learn more about the other members in our community, get to know us better, get to know each other better so that we can hopefully once, it's safe to do so, go out and about and actually shake hands and see people in person and smile and hug and get back to some of that normalcy, which will be nice. But to, Councilwoman Carter's point, we want to make sure we are doing it safely and appropriately. I keep seeing the flashing lights over by the Fairplex, vaccines, no appointments needed. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, it's right there, so don't be afraid that you can't get in. They are trying to make sure that folks are vaccinated. And I did see a headline earlier today, didn't have a chance to really research it, but it looks like they are looking to possibly approve vaccinations for 12 to 15-year-olds in the coming weeks. So something else to do your research on and explore and decide what you want to do with your kids. Because I know that is, can be a touchy subject, but definitely go take a look. And I would also echo, some of the comments on here as well about, the big thanks to Chief Segura for coming in. This is a hairy situation for a lot of people to have to deal with. So I appreciate, that the effort that was put in and really appreciative of the staff too. Again, to Councilwoman Carter's point, our staff has moved pretty nimbly in an unprecedented time. And, as many times as we've heard the word unprecedented, if this were a drinking game, we would all be drunk. But, I have to say, when you get thrown things every day, whether it's from, the county health department or the state or federal or whatever it is, just the new things that we never would have envisioned. And I think our staff really rolled with the punches and did the best they could. And I think that's huge. So, to the unsung heroes, the streets were working, the lights were on, the water was flowing, everything was working. So thank you to all the staff for making that happen. And I know sometimes they get to bear the brunt of some of the not so nice situations. So thank you for doing that for us.
Thank you, Councilmember Lau. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. A lot of good things going on. I want to say I'll ring with Councilmember Carter that our staff, all of our departments did an outstanding job, and also to assisting to our city staff, also for giving our businesses, closing down D Street and just really helping them out with the business assistance grants and really putting it out there for them because it's the lifeblood of our community, our businesses. So thank you to staff for that, but also internally, just like you said, they never skipped a beat. So I would say kudos to all staff. And thank you guys very much because, like you say, you didn't skip a beat. And also, Carl Coles, our superintendent of Bonita Unified, sent out information this week regarding that all in class starting May 10th. They'll do a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday in class, full on. So whoever wants to go, I think it's wonderful. It's just, we're moving into the yellow tier. Start the end of the year, at least getting us fully staffed. So kudos to the district, kudos to the frontline workers that were handing out lunches through this whole pandemic, the kitchen staff, frontline staff, the superintendent, and for most of all, the teachers who have put up with this changing environment in this COVID environment with, I just don't know how they've been doing it with online learning and then partially going back. I just say that we owe you a debt of gratitude that to stick with this. We've got a great school district between the two cities, San Dimas and us. And I just want to thank you all for sticking it out there to just putting up with this and moving along with all the changes. And then also we had a meeting today. It was the Downtown Business District meeting, which is the businesses downtown regarding D Street. So we'll have some more information on on D Street and the closure and what's going on soon once they make a decision on what's happening. But as we know with our governor, that a lot of things have changed so quickly. Yes, it's good. No, it's not good. And so this June 15th date is a great target. I just hope that we can continually go towards that full open. So cautiously optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic. We want a parade. We want fireworks. Oh, did I say that? I'm sorry. But we do want, if we can do a 4th of July parade, it would be absolutely awesome, but understanding it only can be done if it's safe and fireworks. So I know that this is a tough decision as we go into the yellow tier, but I know that the residents would love it. But again, we have to be safe. We have to make sure that we're out of that yellow tier and on to move on. So, but again, and also, and thank you, Mr. Segura. I do appreciate your time here. As Mr. Davis said, it wasn't the easiest of all tasks, but you did a great job, and Godspeed with what you're faced with at home, and take care of your personal stuff. And thank you again for everything you've done. Okay. We have a closed session tonight, Mr. Russi, is that correct?
We do. Closed session is under Government Code Section 54957.6 and conferences with labor negotiator, city manager, assistant city manager, and city attorney and senior analyst.
We will be recessing into closed session. We will not be reporting out. We are adjourning in memory tonight of Jefferson Hill, Sr., longtime Laverne resident who passed away on Friday, April 16th, this month, excuse me. Mr. Hill was born on May 19th, 1935 in Lake City, Tennessee. In 2003, Mr. Hill established the Laverne San Dimas Meals on Wheels program when he saw an unmet need for this service in both cities. The program started with 7 recipients and today serves over 50 meals daily. He served in the Air Force for 22 years as a senior master sergeant during both the Korean and the Vietnam Wars. He was a lifetime member of the VFW and is a past post commander. In 2015, he was instrumental in the campaign to construct the Laverne Veterans Memorial. In 2015, he was recognized by Assemblymember Holden for his years of service to his country, serving in the Air Force and the community. He was named Veteran of the Year for the 41st Assembly District. He worked for Northrop as an aerospace engineer, earned a master's degree in psychology, and went on to teach in several colleges. In 2015, he received the 50th Annual Older American Recognition Day Award for his service to the community and commitment to the veterans. He was honored as a community hero at the Los Angeles County Fair in 2015. His biggest passion was helping the fellow veterans. He is survived by his wife, Helen, his sons, Jefferson Jr., Charles, and his daughter, Evelyn. You will be missed, Mr. Hill. I remember you coming to the meetings and always full of energy and just great ideas. Thank you for your service and Godspeed to you and your family. We're going to adjourn that. We will be start next Monday, May 17th at 2021 at 4:30 p.m. for a preliminary budget study session. And then our next regular meeting is May 17th at 6:30 p.m. We'll recess the closed session.